change the battery on the car. Oh, no, wrong subject. I'm sorry. Okay. We want to talk about things that people want to hear about Jamie. Thank you so much for coming on, Taylor. I want to just take a moment and thank everybody who's coming on the show. It's just so amazing, such a well-rounded group of people, and people who've been so deeply touched by Jamie. And Taylor, I think you beat us all in the best friend department. So now's your turn to strut your stuff.
Well, thank you, Chris. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm excited to be a part of this program, and I think it's wonderful that we can do this tribute to Jamie.
Yeah, I think it's overdue, but I think it took us kind of this long to be able to talk about her without just blubbering and crying, and because we miss her so much. I think we're finally at a point in our lives that we can have this healthy discussion, and I think it's good for all of us, and I think it's great. Anybody who didn't know her, I think, I hope it inspires other people. That's for sure.
Well, that's true. We are at a point where it's easier to talk about these things. The grief tends to stick with us, but it changes, it mutates, and now it's a little easier to talk about these things and to really look back with fondness and happiness on the good times.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I think our listeners would definitely love to hear your side of the story. Cause we've heard all about Sucker Boy, and we've heard about the Boy Scout, and we've heard, we've heard from the ladies what the ladies thought. What did Taylor think? And what really happened the first time you met Jamie?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, one of the first memories I have of meeting Jamie was on a Sunday. I was going to church, and I lived in the same apartment complex that she lived in, and I looked up to the second level where she was living at the time, and I saw this young woman walking across the, just almost gliding across the level there, and she was dressed in this nice Sunday dress and also had these classy white gloves on, and I was really impressed. I'm like, oh, I love those gloves. And of course, later I came to find out that they were bandages, that helped her deal with the skin condition that she had. And so, as I got to know her a little bit more, another experience I had was I visited her, and at the time she was writing an essay for one of her honors classes. So she was in the honors program at Brigham Young University, where we were both studying at the time. And I was really curious to find out how she thought, because I was already impressed with how she looked. She was classy. I thought she was attractive with fair skin, and so I wanted to get to know her better. And so I thought, I'll read her essay and see a little bit more about who she is on the inside. So I read her essay and was really impressed. She was brilliant, and I thought, wow, this is a pretty amazing girl. But at this point, I wasn't. I wasn't thinking about dating her or anything like that. But later, she told me that she had produced a CD, or at least sang a number of Christmas songs, and she said that she was giving them away for a donation to help people with Epidermolysy Bullosa, the skin condition that she had. And I thought, oh, that's great. I would love to be a part of a charity and contribute to a good cause. So I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll buy your CD. And so I did, and then I put the CD in my CD player and started listening to it, and I was absolutely blown away, a lot like April said, I think, earlier when she talked about being blown away by her album. I was deeply impressed because her voice was just gorgeous. It's this gorgeous soprano voice, and I love the higher-pitched lady voices. And so I was impressed by that, but what it moved me and touched me more than her voice itself was the song that she was singing. As I listened to He Shall Be Born on this Christmas CD that she made, I was listening to the lyrics, and felt this distinct impression that she knew who she was singing about. And the song was a prophecy, or it was a prediction from Scripture about Christ being born of Mary. And so when I heard that, I'm like, whoa, she really knows this. You know, she knows Christ. And then as soon as I felt that way, I'm like, oh, that's the type of girl I want to marry. And then as I got to know her more and more, I then changed my thinking beyond just that's the type of girl I want to marry. It became, oh, she is the one I want to marry. And then I, as mentioned before, I pursued her for about four and a half years before we finally were able to get married. And I pursued her on and off during that time. I can go into more detail with that if you'd like. So that's how I first met. Yeah, that's how I first met Jamie, was at BYU, studying or living in the same apartment complex and interacting at church and things like that.
Wow, that's great. Now we because we know the story. We know you were married to her. So let's jump ahead to okay. Now you're married, and you enter a more intimate part of your life, and you're doing her wound care.
Yeah.
I mean, EB it's really scary. If you're not a doctor or, or a parent, I mean, what was your reaction to that? I think a lot of people would be interested in hearing that.
Sure, yeah, and I was first exposed to bandage changes on a person with Epidermolysy Bullosa at Disney World in Florida with Bruce Gunn, amazing individual who had EB and lived a very long time with EB, a very severe form of it. But I got to room with him, and I watched his bandage changes, and that was the first exposure I had to it. And then later, before
that was my first exposure to it too.
Oh, really?
Bruce was at LCB camp. That's funny. Sorry to interrupt you, but I did not know that.
No, that's okay.
We both had the same first experience.
Yeah, and so I was able to see the serious nature of the wounds that the bandages covered. I mean, these were huge open wounds that would be extremely painful to anyone that's not used to them. And I don't know if anyone ever feels used to them anyway, but I watched with interest and was curious to see how he dealt with such a severe problem. And Bruce handled it really well. He made it so that I wasn't disgusted by it. He showed me that it's not something to be scared of. And I was pretty good with things like that anyway. When I was younger, I worked in the emergency room as a volunteer, and I've worked with elderly individuals as a nursing assistant. So I've seen a number of things. So I'm not too squeamish, so that helped too. But the chance that I first had in helping Jamie with her bandages was when we were dating, and I was living in San Diego at the time, and she came to visit. And during that time, I had the chance of helping her do the bandage changes, and the first bandage change I did with her, it took us 3 hours. I mean, normally it would take her with her really good nurses, just under an hour. But learning how to do it was difficult, and she was very patient with me and helped me know how to best bandage her. And then later in our marriage, I got better to the point where I could help her change her bandages in probably an hour and a half. I was never as good as her nurses, but the last bandage change that Jamie ever had, I had the privilege to do that, and it was on a Saturday before she passed away, so almost a week before she passed away, and it took us 8 hours to do that bandage change, but that was a really special time to be with her, even though it was hard and difficult. It's one of those experiences that mean a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to interject just for a moment for any listeners that may be listening now live or in the future. something we haven't talked about, EB, is the dressing changes, the changing of the bandages and the time that it takes. And, some people do it every other day, some people wait 3 to 4 days, but, each session is just really long and really tedious and very painful. And I'm proud of you, Taylor. That's, I kind of knew a little bit, but I never really delved into asking about that because I felt it was more of a personal thing. But I figured in this in this arena, it was a worthy question. And thank you so much for opening up and sharing that. That's a very personal
you're welcome.
thing. I've always looked up to you. I've always admired you, and I think we just have such a great friendship. And
thank you, Chris. It's true.
Hearing that, my reverence just shot through the roof one more time. I love you, my brother. So
the feeling's mutual.
I just recently posted the videos about her skin cancer, which any listeners, you can find them on the events page. They're very important videos to watch, especially for people with EB. She talks about the skin cancer that was happening. She made those 4 years before she died. When I would talk to her on the phone, she's like, I lost about another inch in my arm since last time we talked. And, I mean, what was going through your mind at that time? And, how were you able to comfort her, in case someone else is going through it? What are some of the things that worked for you
to
help her?
Yeah, well, what was going through my mind during the time was, I just would accept whatever was coming our way as, this is what we have to get through. I had more time with Jamie than I ever expected to have. I thought I would be lucky when I married her to have 2 years with her. I married her when she was 28. Her life expectancy, from what all the professionals would say about anyone with her form of EB, was that living to 30 was rare. So I thought I'd be lucky to get 2 years, but I got 8.5 wonderful years with her. And so when she came down with the cancer and we were dealing with all that, I was just already grateful for the amount of time that I had with her. And we wanted to work hard on making sure that she had a quality of life, not just quantity. And our thinking was that if we focused on her having a quality of life, that the side effect would be it would extend her life as well. She would her life. Our approach to it, that actually came true in our experience. Wow. And so that was going through our mind. Now, when it comes to comforting her, I really didn't need to comfort her a lot at all. She had one of the most amazing attitudes about challenges in life. And in fact, she learned how to deal with challenges, especially the painful challenges. She learned how to deal with those so well from her mom, actually. Sheila Gibson had taught her at a young age that there really wasn't a lot that we could do to help her when she felt pain. And so Jamie could best help by not breaking down and into huge tears or a temper tantrum of any sort. And so Jamie actually took that to heart. And so throughout the remainder of her life, even though she was feeling extraordinary pain on a minute-by-minute basis, she wouldn't show the pain. She wouldn't show that she hurt. And she did that so that it would help other people not feel the stress and the pain in a kind of a vicarious way. So she helped us not feel her pain by not showing her pain. And she did a great job of it. So I really didn't have to comfort her. And she was able to comfort herself, really. And I think her faith also, her faith that she had someone above, a God in heaven, a Savior in Jesus Christ who loves her, there at her side to be with her and help her. That faith is what got her through a lot of the pain and the challenges. in the way that she did, meaning in a calm way, in a way where